Why was Obi-Wan Kenobi able to hide Luke Skywalker on Tatooine, Anakin Skywalker's home planet, for 20 years after Revenge of the Sith? Why didn't Vader ever try to return to the planet where he was born? Well, today I want to take you through a part of the book, Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, where Vader is inside the Jedi Temple, remembering everything. He explains why he became Vader, why he knew Sidious was manipulating him, why he ended up going to the Jedi Temple anyway, and at the end of it, Vader realizes he can never go to Tatooine. It's an interesting answer to what some people may see as a plot hole, so sit back, relax, let's get into Vader's mind inside the temple, and of course, please do leave a like, please comment, please subscribe. Let me know if you've read this book, do you enjoy it? I think it's very good, and also, what do you think of Vader overall just through this passage? Do you ever have an issue with him not going to Tatooine? Let me know, but maybe I'll change your mind reading through this passage today. Most of Vader's Anakin memories grew fainter by the day, but not Anakin's memories of what had happened here in the Jedi Temple. They were as fresh as this morning's sunrise, glimpsed from the rooftop chamber in which Vader rested. True sleep continued to lie just out of his reach, an object pursued in vain in an unsettling dream. Vader no longer had visions either. That ability, that double-edged ability, seemingly had been burned out of him on Mustafar. But Vader remembered being in thrall of what he had done in Palpatine's office, watching the old man plead for his life, listening to the old man promising that only he had the power to save Padme, rushing to his defense, Sith lightning hurling an astonished Mace Windu through what had been a window, Anakin kneeling before Sidious and being dubbed Darth Vader. "Go to the Jedi Temple," Sidious had said. "We will catch them off balance. Do what must be done, Lord Vader. Do not hesitate. Show no mercy. Only then will you be strong enough with the dark side to save Padme." And so he had gone to the temple, instrument of the same resolute intent that had carried Obi-Wan to Mustafar, with one goal in mind: death to the enemy. In his mind's eye, Vader saw his and the 501st's march to the temple gates, the wrathful attack, the mad moments of bloodlust, the dark side unleashed in all its crimson fury. Some moments he remembered more clearly than others, pitting his blade against that of Swordmaster Syndrelic, beheading some of the very masters who had instructed him in the ways of the Force, and, of course, his cold extermination of the younglings, and with them, the future of the Jedi Order. He had wondered beforehand, could he do it? Still new to the dark side, would he be able to call on its power to guide its hand and lightsaber? In answer, the dark side had whispered, "They are orphans. They are without family or friends. There is nothing that can be done with them. They are better off dead." But this recalling, weeks later, curdled his blood. This place should never have been built, Anakin thought at the time. In fact, he hadn't killed the Jedi to serve Sidious, though Sidious was meant to believe just that. In his arrogance, Sidious was unaware that Anakin had seen through him. Had the Sith Lord thought he would simply shrug off the fact that from the start, Sidious had been manipulating Anakin and the war? No, he hadn't killed the Jedi in service to Sidious, or, for that matter, to demonstrate his allegiance to the Order of the Sith. He had executed Sidious's command because the Jedi would never have understood Anakin's decision to sacrifice Mace and the rest in order that Padme might survive the tragic death she suffered in Anakin's visions. More important, the Jedi would have attempted to stand in the way of the decisions he and Padme would have needed to make regarding the fate of the galaxy, beginning with the assassination of Sidious. Oh, but on Mustafar, she had worked herself into a state over what he had done at the temple, so much so that she hadn't heard a word of what he was saying. Instead, she had made up her mind that he had come to care more about power than he cared for her, as if one matters without the other, Vader thought, and then cursed Obi-Wan had shown himself, interrupting everything before Anakin could explain fully that everything he had done in Palpatine's office and at the temple had been for her sake, and for the sake of their unborn child. Had Obi-Wan not arrived, he would have persuaded her to understand. He would have made her understand. and together they would have moved against the Sith Lord. The rasp of Vader's breathing became much more audible. Flexing his artificial hands did nothing to waylay his rage, so he hunched his broad shoulders under the armored pectoral and the heavy cloak, and he was shuddering. Why didn't she listen to me, Vader thought. Why didn't any of them listen to me? His anger continued to build as he neared the temple's archives room, where he parted company with Commander Oppo and the stormtroopers. And Vader realized even if he had killed Sidious, even if he had won the war single-handedly for the Republic, the Jedi would have fought him to the bitter end. They might even have insisted on taking custody of his and Padme's child, for their offspring would have been powerful in the Force indeed, perhaps beyond measure. If only the High Council Masters hadn't been so set in their ways, so deceived by their own pride, they would have grasped that the Jedi needed to be brought down. Like the Republic itself, their order had grown stale, self-serving, and corrupt. And yet if the Council had seen fit to recognize his power, had granted him the status of master, perhaps he could have abided by their continued existence. But to call him the Chosen One, only to hold him back, to lie to him, and expect him to lie for them, and Vader's heart pounded in his chest. The respirator fed his heart's need with rapid breaths. For his own health and sanity, he realized that he would have to avoid places that whipped his anger into such frenzy. The recognition that he would never be able to set foot on Naboo or Tatooine tore an anguished moan that toppled the rest of the planes as if they were dominoes, leaving their crowning bronzium busts sliding and spinning across the polished, blood-flecked floor. Hollowed by the mournful outpouring, he supported himself against a broken column for what seemed an eternity. And that's where our story ends today, with Vader in the Jedi Temple, just seething with anger, just upon himself, he can't even move because of how angry he is. He's trembling, he's going insane in the Jedi Temple, remembering everyone that ever made him angry, remembering what he did, remembering what Anakin did, what Vader did, and it brings back every memory of Padme, every memory of Obi-Wan, every happy, sad, angry memory. And with that, in the temple, Vader comes to a realization. He will never really be able to visit Naboo or Tatooine, out of fear that this anger will just erupt inside of him and destroy him like it's trying to do in the temple. Sidious sent Vader to the temple, and now Vader is maybe seeing why, to just make him relive everything, as Sidious wants Vader to overcome these emotions. But instead, Vader is getting more and more angry. And I found it really interesting reading this, that Vader acknowledges that he knew at the end that Sidious was manipulating the war, manipulating him throughout his entire life, acknowledging that he would have assassinated Sidious if Padme would have just listened to him. Together, the two of them would have gone off and ruled the galaxy after Sidious was killed. That's the reason Anakin went to the temple. That's the reason he killed the younglings. Not to be Darth Vader, not to be a Sith, but because he knew the Jedi would never understand what he did to Mace Windu. Because, he just had to cut ties at that point. And it's, horrible excuse. Vader was delusional, out of his mind, just, trying to blame everyone but himself for everything, as I say, for the fourth time in that entire sentence. But anyways, that's where it ends today, with Vader realizing he can never go to Tatooine, never go to Naboo, really. Of course, in the comics, he does go there, but it's a reason he can't do it, because it would just rip the anger from him, rip him to pieces, destroy him from the inside out. And I find that really interesting. There is still maybe plot holes that you could argue about, Vader. Oh, there it is again. Vader could never find Luke Skywalker, could never find Obi-Wan, despite them hiding on Tatooine, Anakin's home planet. It wasn't the best hiding spot and is a bit weird, but it connects the franchise very well, and there's the reason that Vader never even tried to find him there. I find it interesting. Let me know what you thought, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.